very pleasant for those who made the presentations to have all these interested people who made comments, who asked questions. I hope you all liked these 2 days, and I appreciate your presence here. To conclude this symposium,
nous allons demander au...
we're going to ask the Minister for Justice, David Lametti, to say a few words and say how he's going to modernize the Official Languages Act.
Introduction. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are gathered today on the unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe. Je suis très honoré de clôturer.
It's a great honor for me to close this national symposium about the 50 years of the Official Languages Act. I want to thank the National Arts Center for welcoming us in this magnificent space, and I thank you also for having stayed until the end. The NAAC introduces Canadian talent to the Canadian public, to Canadians, and on stages everywhere. It's been doing so for the last 50 years. During these last few months, we've been consulting Canadians to discuss about the main issues that could have an effect on official languages of Canada, and to find ways to make that act viable.
Across the country, and many of you submitted written briefs and took part in roundtables or in online discussions. And we gathered here over the past few days to share that collective knowledge. There have been amazing contributions from our presenters, our panelists, the youth participants, the artists, and of course all of you who are engaged participants and are gathered here today to make this symposium such a great success. Without naming everybody, because that would be impossible, I would like to highlight the contributions of Minister Joly, Clerk of the Privy Council, Ian Shugart, the former Commissioner, Graham Fraser, the current Commissioner, Raymond Théberge, journalists Daniel Lessard and Christopher Curtis, presidents of the representative bodies, Jean Janson, Jeffrey Chambers, Nancy McCarrigan, Sue Duguay, the Standing Committee on Official Languages, Canadian Museum for Human Rights in Winnipeg, who participated remotely, and our Master of Ceremonies, Catherine Clark.
Bilingualism is something that is very dear to my heart and that I don't take for granted. I grew in Port Colborne in Ontario in an English-speaking family where we spoke also Italian. Like many immigrant children, I'm able to converse in more than one language. I also taught my mother tongue to my children, and I understand the challenges of maintaining one's language. Knowledge of French is important in Canada given the history and the unique culture of our country. Still, I had to work hard to be able to communicate, to teach, and to practice law in French in an efficient manner. I believe that speaking several languages, whether English, French, or any other, is a significant element to be well connected nationally and globally. In Port Colborne, I had the opportunity of living and studying close with the French-speaking communities there, and I saw how hard it is to live in French in a minority setting. I came into politics for working for French Canadian candidates, including the Honorable François Parent.
As an adult, I also got to see the challenges that English-speaking Quebecers face. And there is certainly much work to do on all of these fronts, but I think all Canadians can be proud of the strength and vitality of our official language minority communities across the country. Au Canada, nos deux langues officielles.
In Canada, both our official languages represent a significant part of who we are as a country. 50 years ago, the Official Languages Act recognized French and English as official languages for Canada, for the Parliament and for the Government of Canada. Today, some of us can take for granted bilingualism of our governmental institutions, our services, and our workplaces. This wasn't always the case. And I believe we're privileged to have institutions and civil servants who show a strong level of bilingualism, even if there's still some work to do to develop and protect our bilingual roots. The Official Languages Act, introduced by the government of Pierre-Elliott Trudeau in '69, is in part a response to the disparities that existed between the employment rates in French-speaking communities and English-speaking communities for the Federal Public Service. Its main objective was to make sure that Canadians would have an access to federal services in the official language of their choice. The impact in the post office of Port Colborne was quite visible.
Established that the public has the right to receive services from federal departments and agencies and from Crown corporations in the official language of their choice. In legal matters, the OLA ensures that individuals can have their day in all federal courts in the official language of their choice. It also guarantees that Parliament must adopt and publish laws and regulations in both official languages. De plus,
What's more, this significant piece of legislation protects the principle that French and English have an equal status instead of the Federal Public Service in designated area As many of you know, the Official Languages Act led to the creation of the Commissioner of Official Languages. I have a lot of respect for that position, Commissioner Théberge, and for those who work and support him. The Commissioner is a representative of the Parliament who receives the complaints from the public, who leads investigations, and who makes recommendations concerning the status of both official languages. In such a context, I appreciate the detailed reports that give us a portrait of the situation, where more must be done in order to promote and protect language rights of French speakers and English speakers.
And rights of the Official Languages Act were eventually incorporated into the Constitution under sections 16 to 23 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. This is precisely because language is part of our identity. In addition, the 1988 Official Languages Act was enacted to ensure the full implementation of the official language rights related to federal institutions and guaranteed by sections 16 to 20 of the Canadian Charter. The scope of the 1988 Act is considerably broader than that of 1969, with the addition of Part 5 on the language of work and Part 6 on equal access to employment and advancement in federal institutions. It also added Part 7 of the promotion of official languages and support to the development and vitality of official language minority communities. And lastly, it added Part 10 with the creation of a judicial remedy before the federal court. La Charte canadienne des droits et
The Canadian Charter was born at a time where I was looking for my own way, intellectually speaking. I just completed my studies, my first BA at the University of Toronto. Looking at the signing ceremony on Parliament Hill, I understood that our country had just done something important. We had just signed a document that stated that in Canada, wherever you come from or who you are, our common goal is to be protected by the Charter. This includes the right to have your voice heard in the official language of your choice in the federal context. The debates I witnessed and the vision that dealt with what our country should be are greatly responsible for my decision of studying law.
In part, so I could improve my French and study in a bilingual and bijural environment. The other part is that I grew up as a Habs fan in the Niagara Peninsula and pushed me to Montreal. Another influence of the Franco-Ontarians who lived in Niagara. It also helped me to better understand that justice is not a one-size-fits-all concept. Responsibility for providing access to justice is shared among the provinces, territories, and the federal government. In Canada, our official languages have a major impact on how we administer our legal system and our courts. We must provide equal access to justice in both official languages. We can and should be proud of the language rights and privileges in place in a variety of institutions and circumstances. But as I was mentioning earlier, governments at the federal, provincial, and territorial levels must work hard and together to safeguard them. Justice Canada provides grants and contributions, funding to many organizations to help maintain and strengthen an individual's ability to access justice in the official language of their choice, as well as to enhance the vitality of official language communities. En avril dernier,
last April, I had the pleasure of meeting representatives from Éducalois, a non-for-profit organization funded in part by the Department of Justice. Its mission is to help citizens understand their rights and their responsibilities. It stresses clarity in the complex judicial concepts that have a bearing on their lives. For the separation, divorce, testaments, wills. Nous avons affaire à un financement à Éducalois et d'autres organisations pour nous assurer que les résidents anglophones ont un accès égal aux ressources au sujet du droit québécois. Mon ministère soutient également d'autres programmes pour les communautés minoritaires francophones hors du Québec. Et nous allons annoncer d'autres mesures bientôt.
Du fait que pour favoriser l'accès à la justice familiale dans les deux langues officielles,
our government proposed in its budget of 2019 to give the Department of Justice $21.6 million over 5 years, starting in 2020-2021. This funding will support modifications to the law of divorce to foster better access to justice in the official language of a person's choice. On a également recréé le programme de contestation judiciaire. L'objectif de ce programme très important, c'est d'offrir aux particuliers et aux groupes au Canada le soutien financier nécessaire pour obtenir un recours lié à des droits de la personne ou aux droits linguistiques qui sont constitutionnels ou quasi-constitutionnels. Voici, en bref, ce que nous avons accompli, mais je veux reconnaître le fait qu'il nous reste beaucoup de travail à faire. The Commissioner saluted the progress made by underlining what remains to be done. That's why it is so important for us to hold such events in order to go on putting official languages in their right place. Our acts must answer our present needs. They must answer the present issues in terms of official languages.
At justice, where the work we do can have a significant impact on the lives of all Canadians. We must continue to work towards a legal system in which every Canadian has the ability to effectively interact with and in the official language of their choice. I would like to thank all of you here for the important contributions you have made and continue to make in helping to promote and protect official languages in Canada. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has previously said that Canadians understand that diversity is our strength. We know that Canada has succeeded culturally, politically, economically, because of our diversity, and not in spite of it. Our languages play a central role in the strength of our diversity. And those languages do not include only English and French, but also those languages spoken by Indigenous peoples and all other languages spoken in Canada from around the globe, which help contribute to our rich cultural mosaic. In fact, we have 90 different living Indigenous languages in Canada, and our government has introduced historic legislation in partnership with First Nations, with Inuit, and with the Métis Nation to help reclaim, revitalize, and strengthen and maintain Indigenous languages in Canada.
When dealing with federal institutions, we all have the right to communicate and to be understood in the official language of our choice without any discrimination, without being judged. I trust the capacity of the federal government and its departments and agencies to give a greater representation to official languages inside our country. I already saw great successes about that, and I trust that we will be up to the challenges of the future.
Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States once said that, and I quote, "Language is the blood of the soul into which thoughts run and out of which they grow." End quote. Language is more than a mechanism for communication. It is a living and evolving part of one's identity and one's history. It is an important element to how each one of us processes our thoughts and lived experiences. The protection
and promotion of the use of official languages in activities of the federal government will contribute to strengthen the significant role played by language in our judicial system and in our democracy.
We've had occasion to commemorate, celebrate, and reflect on the 50 years of the Official Languages Act and all that has been made possible by this piece of quasi-constitutional legislation. Je vous remercie.
I thank you once again for your participation during these 2 days, for your contribution of great value and your participation to this great project.
Miigwech.
En votre nom, je voudrais remercier le ministre Lametti pour...
On your behalf, I wish to thank the Minister for these kind words. This Minister is strongly involved in the modernization of the Official Languages Act, and we can count on him after election time to make sure that this this will be adopted very soon by the Parliament of Canada. Before leaving, let's have a photo up with the Minister, but because you worked hard for not much, I would invite panelists, moderators, participants who made the presentations to come here before the flags, and the Minister will surely accept to be present on the stage as well. So if you want to come, don't be shy. Right at the back here. Thank you all. Happy return home. Thanks for your participation. Goodbye.